If I had to choose out of any of them, I'd probably go white HomePod. But out of these two here, I would go for the one.
So white then.
Yeah.
I'd love to be on a fly on the wall in conversation between Apple and Spotify. I wonder who it is that's stopping that.
We'd never know. And vinyl, again, it's had another increase in sales this year.
Massively.
Albeit with Taylor Swift sales.
That's on repeat.
Yeah. So for real music lovers, you're going to navigate to Sonos.
Hey guys, welcome along to episode 1 of a brand new series right here on our brand new channel. You're joining myself, Louis, alongside Andrew from Smart Home Sounds, and we've also got our producer, Emily, with us here today too. So essentially the plan with these more kind of chatty videos is essentially to share some more detail on our opinions on different products that we talk about, not only on our Smart Home Sounds channel, but also right here, talk a little bit more in depth, a little bit more of an informal kind of conversation about them. So if you are looking for a more kind of polished, in-depth review, then obviously head over to our main channel, but this is where we're just going to talk a little bit more openly about the products as and when they come in.
And I think hopefully we can get some future guests on, maybe some people from some brands. I know a lot of people in the comments have questions for the brand, so maybe we can, in future episodes, put that to them.
So today's chat, we're going to talk all about the new HomePod 2 and comparing it with the Sonos One Gen 2. So I think maybe we should just kick off by explaining why we've picked these two products to compare.
So the HomePod 2 obviously released this month, February 2023. And I think the reason why we're comparing it initially to the Sonos One Gen 2 is because it's probably one of the more obvious comparisons out of the home speakers that exist, not only in terms of like form factor, as you can see, but also from a price point sort of perspective as well.
Yeah, and I think this is, obviously we've talked a lot about why Apple have brought this product back. I think we've talked about it internally in the office, and for us, it's not an Apple move to lose something on their website and then bring back an almost identical product. Obviously, it's £100 more than Sonos One, so I think it's, you know, where do we see that sit? Why do we think Apple has brought this product back?
And so I guess if we take it one step back and start from the beginning, so the original HomePod released in, was it 2017? And then they ran it for, I think, 4 years. Then it just got discontinued. Apparently, they did have 70% of the market share with the original HomePod in what they class as the premium brand smart speaker.
Which at the time, back in 2017, I imagine, well, it wasn't such a big category as it is now.
When Apple released a product in the new category that they did, everyone wants to jump on board, so there's a lot of hype around it. So people probably bought into that original HomePod because they're just Apple fanboys, like we are.
Yeah,
you know, we bought that product, we brought it in, we tested it, and unfortunately we did send it back because it didn't have what we thought was enough for a smart speaker at that time. Yeah,
I think it was, for me, the overall like functionality was a little bit of a sticking point. Maybe it was a little bit too rigid in comparison to like the other options, like the One Gen 2. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Hopefully you guys have heard the sound tests in the video that we've got out on our main channel, and you've been able to make your own minds up on this. But again, we'll come on to it in more detail. But I think, some interesting points.
And I think I am an Apple Music subscriber. So in reality, I have MacBook, I've got an Apple Watch.
Let's have a little Apple showdown then.
Yeah.
Let's start. Apple iPhone.
Yeah. Both got iPhones.
Watch.
Both got Apple Watches,
Apple
Ultras.
Watch. iPad.
No, not got the iPad. That's where I'm missing.
One up to Andrew. Mac?
Yeah.
Mac Mini, I know Louis obviously running the Mac Studio.
Yeah.
AirPods.
AirTags.
AirTags.
Multiple AirTags you've got, haven't you?
I've got 4, I think.
I'll tell you, the ultimate Apple enthusiastic product is the microfiber cloth. The £25 microfiber. That's been on back order for like 6 months. Apparently it's back in stock, but I will not buy that product.
No, I'm not.
Let us know in the comments if you've actually
bought
that
is
product.
the sort of thing you'd buy then.
Well, that's what's funny about like when you read through these different stats about the numbers that Apple are doing in their like valuation, and I was reading through that thinking I've significantly contributed to these numbers.
Well, and I think that's like the Apple AirPods as a product. If you just took that out of Apple's category, it's the same size, sort of. It's bigger than Uber.
They're bigger than Spotify, Shopify, Snapchat. Like they're absolutely huge.
It's crazy.
Big brands. And then onto Sonos as well. Both in the Sonos ecosystem, aren't you? Both Sonos fanboys, I guess you could say. I mean, we use the word fanboy quite loosely. I think when we say about being Apple fanboys and Sonos fanboys, we are in a sense that we tend to like the products that come out from those two brands, but we still would send a product back if it doesn't suit our use cases, and as we've done with the HomePod 2.
I'm a fanboy if it works. I think you're the same. You know, you get those things. You're a fanboy. If it doesn't work and it doesn't suit my needs, I'll send it back.
Yeah.
And I think where the HomePod come out, I was already invested in the Sonos ecosystem when the original one came out. So,
but I think we still share a similar viewpoint that the HomePod 2 is not enough. even for me, who's not as heavily invested, to want to make that jump and ditch Sonos.
Yeah, and I think
for Apple,
we test loads and loads of speakers on the channel, and in the office we're testing loads. And I think all in all, Sonos offers a great balance of being able to get to your music quick. It's easy for the whole family to use, and I think with the HomePod, yes, it does do those things, but as an Apple Music user, because the Sonos app is probably it is the only app that actually you can build Apple Music in. So, for example, if I like Spotify Connect, but obviously Apple Connect, if you like, within the Sonos app. So, I think for me as an Apple Music user, that's a massive plus.
Yeah,
I prefer the black version of the Apple HomePod, but if I have to pick, I mean, which one do you prefer, looking wise? Which one would you rank?
Out of these two,
Yeah,
I think. If I had to choose out of any of them, I'd probably go white HomePod. But out of these two here, I would go for the one.
So white then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like the white. For me, in my home, the white blends in
aesthetic.
that kind of fits the vibe.
Both give you the black and white option. So again, similar brands in terms of aesthetics there. They both recognise there's a need for both.
Yeah.
I think what's nice about the HomePod is that top screen. I think they've made that bigger, haven't they? So when when you talk to Siri, that's going to light up, and that is a nice design feature of it. It's something that we've liked, but I think, like we've said, I think the practicalities of the grill, particularly with the white one, might eventually be a bit frustrating for some people.
Looking at both of them, I think the Sonos, if you look at the Sonos One, yes, it's had a new grill, but the form factor is 10 years old in reality.
Yeah.
Because the original Play 1. So, I mean, for 10 years old, it's still looking pretty good for that. So whoever designed that speaker, hats off to it. So I think as time goes on, it'd be interesting to see how the HomePod dates.
What's interesting on a design front actually is that Sonos have got a lot of accessories. So you can wall mount it, you can put it up in the corner of your room, you've got floor stand options. Apple, you'll put in this on a side unit, and that's it. So I think in terms of flexibility of placement, you might have a bit more versatility with Sonos. How it actually works functionally in your space is also really crucial. You could have the most amazing speaker, but if you've got no place to put it in your house, it's no use to you.
Yeah, and I think that's step one at the design. If you like it, you bring it into your home. I think the key for us, and probably the reason we sent it back each time, is these are smart speakers.
Yeah.
And outside of Apple's own ecosystem, how smart is the Apple HomePod?
Obviously, you're a little bit stuck if you've got an Android when it comes to trying to set the HomePod. I don't think it's even possible. There's no workaround, is there? You need an iOS device.
I think if you're watching this comparison and you're an Android user, you can stop watching this. You're not buying the HomePod.
Or you might just do it because you want to hate. You want to hate. So either way, but they haven't taken into consideration Android at all. Which is fair enough. Yeah.
As we've said, these are not just speakers, they are smart speakers. So we are expecting more of them just to play music for us. And that comes down to, one, what do they connect to, and two, what smart features they got.
I think straight at the bat, most people, in the comment section we had, they want Spotify Connect or they want Bluetooth.
Yeah.
I think the big thing is people are saying, well, it's not Spotify, it's Apple.
Yeah.
Or it's Spotify, not Apple. So, I mean, I don't think any of us are qualified to actually know who's stopping who. For me, I would say that Apple don't want Spotify on there, but knowing how Spotify are, their CEO, how he acts, then I would say he doesn't want it in either.
Yeah, I just can't justify using the HomePod because everything I do is through Spotify. I've always had Spotify, and I've got no interest in moving over to Apple Music at the moment. Maybe that would change, but having Spotify Connect and like the versatility within the app with Sonos, obviously, because is it agnostic? That's the word they use, isn't it? The ability to use so many different features, and the Sonos app, like you said, having like Apple Music integrated and all that kind of stuff. Like it makes that speaker for me so much more of a viable option, and especially for the family as well, having anyone come around, just chuck whatever they want on. Whereas the Apple, you are obviously, because it's an Apple product, a little bit more limited in that respect.
I wonder if it'll stay like that. I wonder if they will eventually bring Spotify, or if it's just got so much of a beef now. I'd love to be on a fly on the wall in conversation between Apple and Spotify. I wonder who it is that's stopping that.
We'd never know. But I think there's the comment section always seem to know the actual, and again, they're
all flies on the wall there.
Yeah, exactly. So talking to Spotify, has anyone watched the Spotify documentary on Netflix?
No. What's it about?
Oh, it's about I don't know. I just said no. It's obviously, I think it's a story on the CEO about his journey.
That's cool.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, so
I remember I've watched a little bit of a YouTube documentary on it because obviously they got into a bit of trouble initially, because I remember getting Spotify early, and I don't even know if there were ads. There might have been every 4 or 5 songs, but you had anything and everything pretty much ad free.
Do you remember when you used to get Apple Music and over Christmas you'd get 12 days of Christmas and you'd just put like the random U2 song that used to be on every Christmas? You used to get
that's when it was iTunes.
But iTunes, but it would be like automatically downloaded on your phone. You just have new music on your phone that you never even asked for.
I remember I got a Danny Minogue track and I couldn't get rid of it. It's like you couldn't delete them. It was when it was on your album, like a virtual album. But yeah, bad memories of those 12 days of Christmas.
Obviously, when it comes to Apple, it's AirPlay too. There's pros and cons to AirPlay. What do you guys think of it? Do you use it? How do you find it?
I mean, I don't use AirPlay at all because I'm in the Sonos. I know some people like to use the Apple Music app. I use the Apple Music app to find music, and then once I've added it to my library at home, I use the Sonos system with the Apple Music in, and when I'm out and about, I use the Apple Music app.
Yeah.
So I don't like using it. What about you?
See, that's for me because normally, I'm Spotify, so Spotify Connect ideally, but then I have to go through AirPlay, which I don't think there's. I mean, we tested through straight for Apple Music and with me AirPlay into them, and I mean, on a speaker this size, you're not really going to be able to notice like a massive difference in sound quality, but. I'm not really a massive fan of AirPlaying to the speakers. Like as soon as you close the app or walk out, it's cut off. Like I'd rather it be seamless if possible and it continue to work. But I mean, I guess that's just part and parcel of not having paying Apple Music when you're using an Apple product. Like you can't have it all.
I think with the HomePod, if you start music via AirPlay, so if you open up the Apple Music app, send your music to it via AirPlay. The HomePod will then establish a connection with Apple servers and then just play it directly like Spotify Connect.
Yeah.
So then your phone is just a controller, if you like. It's not, if your phone dies, it doesn't matter, the music can keep playing.
But that's Apple Music only, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Apple Music only. It almost works like Spotify Connect.
Yeah.
Obviously, every service on Sonos does that. So when I do that to Sonos, again, it acts like a Sonos speaker. It talks directly to Apple Music servers. Yeah. So I get the best of both worlds, but obviously you don't get that with...
No. And like the downside, it does drain the battery as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Going through AirPlay.
Yeah, I just don't like my phone connected to the speaker all the time. I like music. I like it playing in the background.
Yeah.
So neither have Bluetooth?
Neither products have Bluetooth. Obviously, with Sonos, it's something that people always ask for. I know we've got them in their portable speakers, the Move and the Roam. Apple, no Bluetooth. And I suppose that would have solved for you. Would that have been a better solution for you for Spotify? It's not Spotify Connect.
It's not Spotify Connect, but I suppose it's another option.
It's just so annoying though.
Yeah, and it's got no line in again. So if you wanted a turntable and it was Bluetooth, you could link that. So it gives you a bit
opens more doors.
Yeah,
it does, but then as soon as you get a phone call,
you're off.
Or you watch an Instagram story or you pop onto TikTok, that's all coming through the speaker. That's the worst thing about Bluetooth is you basically can't use your phone properly after that.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I love using the Sonos app. I love the music services built in. I know, like with Sonos, you still use Spotify Connect, don't you?
Yeah.
You don't actually use
I don't really... Yeah, so with my Sonos setup, like I'll still just go straight into the Spotify app.
We've had a big debate about it in the office. Andrew's Sonos app through and through, and the rest of us not interested.
Yeah, it's really interesting, that usage.
It is, yeah.
And people ask for Bluetooth all the time, and I don't on Sonos, which I can understand. It's another. But for me, I love using the Sonos app. I like that direct connection with music servers. My phone is just a controller.
Yeah,
it does take away the element of your phone interrupting your playback, doesn't it? Having it through the Sonos app.
Flip it around. It's good to have the options. Not my way isn't right. Your way isn't right. I think the more options the users have, the more the more chance you're going to make them happy. I mean, again, and if you look at Sonos, if you look at something like vinyl, Apple would never, I should imagine, never let you play vinyl throughout your home.
No.
And vinyl, again, it's had another increase in sales this year.
Massively.
Albeit with Taylor Swift sales. Whatever you make. I know you've got a copy of that probably at home.
No, that's on repeat.
Yeah. So for real music lovers, you're going to navigate to Sonos.
You're Spotify all the way, aren't you?
Yeah.
And Andrew,
100%.
you're...
Apple Music all the way. I think I like how I can select it. I'm used to it now.
But as part of the job, all of us use pretty much every music streaming service. I mean, whether it's, Tidal, everything we've kind
Amazon
of tested
Music,
it and used a variety of, and we have all logged in. Well, most of them logged in on our Sonos account, which I guess is a plus for Sonos. We've got the versatility of everyone in the office can have their own music on Sonos.
Yeah, and I think again, flipping that around, music services also voice services.
Yeah,
I'm Alexa.
I was going to piss everyone off in the
comments. Sorry to every Alexa that's just gone off.
We might as well set everyone off now. Hey Siri.
I think this is where it gets confusing because I use iPhone, everything Apple. So I do use, if I was to use a voice assistant, I'd use Siri. But I rarely find that I actually make the most out of any voice assistant, if I'm honest, because I'm normally just on my iPhone. Like, I know we'll maybe touch on the features a little bit more depth in a bit, but like Find My Friends functionality, not like you've got in the HomePod, I would, my first initial thought is to go to my iPhone, go on Find My before I would think to ask Siri that.
And I think it's knowing what features you can actually do.
Yeah.
Like with the HomePod, I think that was a great feature for me. Obviously, my whole family's in the Apple ecosystem, so I could say, "Hey Siri, where's so and so member of my family?" And it would say they are near so and so, so and so.
Yeah.
So that was something that was really nice for me.
Siri's literally just answered that question.
Okay. So Siri's in the corner. So that's probably my phone. So actually,
mine went off.
So I didn't realise I could ask my phone that.
No, I did.
Yeah.
So actually,
we're all learning.
Do you know what I think is interesting? It's it's a different conversation, but it's the rise and possible fall of voice assistants and how important actually are they for a lot of people. Because the only time I'd ever use a voice assistant is in the shower. Because you like, need hands-free, or in the car when you physically don't have your hands. But I think when I'm at home, like you said, I'm already on my phone, probably watching TikTok. I'm probably just going to go on and put whatever music I want on and not bother asking for it. I don't know, it just feels like more effort.
At home, to be fair, I use it to stop the music when I leave the room. And I think if you've got a lighting system, maybe a Rayco lighting system, it's nice to have your smart assistant set the relax scene or set the movie mode. I think that's when it works really nice. But again, that's dependent on what people have in their home. So I think it's, and Sonos take the approach of they have Google, they have Alexa, and they also have their own voice control. So which is nice because all the information stays on the device.
Can you not use Siri as well through AirPlay?
You can, but I think
is it more limited?
Yeah, it's more limited. But I think when they first announced their voice with Sonos, again they said they were agnostic. Yeah, and they did say that they're hoping to bring every voice service on. So who knows? In the end, and eventually you might have Siri on Apple Music, but they are limited. I think with Sonos it gives you so much flexibility on one, your music service, and two, your voice service you want. With Apple, your Siri all the way.
But there are a lot of perks of Siri that are Apple exclusive, features, aren't there? There's quite a lot we can talk about there with Siri.
I think that's where Apple wins. If you have got the personalization, so you've got the Apple Calendar, you've got your messages, you've got your Apple. If you're completely in that Apple ecosystem and you want personal recommendations, I suppose that's where people will see value.
Yeah. So let's get into that in a little bit more depth then. The HomePod 2, a couple of the features, there's the temperature sensor built in.
And humidity.
Yeah. So I guess like when we're talking more about it being a smart speaker in your house, you're using Siri then to say if the temperature gets to 25 degrees, close the blinds in the living room. Or something like that.
I think that's how you use it in a smart, if you like a smart home.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Can it connect up with your heating as well? So I guess if it drops down below a certain temperature in your house, you can whack the heating up. Yeah. Being mindful of your energy bills.
And I think that's stage one. Eventually you could probably, I think Apple HomeKit will say when the sun sets or the sun rises, open your blinds, for example. So I do see it as Apple, and I think Apple see it as a part of the central sort of the brain, if you like, of your smart home.
Yeah, and that comes into massive thread as well, doesn't it?
Is it carbon?
No,
it's smoke. That's what
it can listen to your smoke alarms.
It hears your. That's it.
So if you have a Nest smoke alarm like I have at home,
and then it'll
listen to that, send you a message to say the next.
Is that Apple just admitting that they're always listening though?
Yeah, which I think again is another conversation. I know when the Sonos One came out, a big plus point was that you can kill the microphones on the Sonos One by pressing the button, and there's no way it can be reactivated by a software update, by anything like that. So Apple are always listening.
That's what I find interesting, because when you go on like the product pages of the HomePod 2 on their website, it does say that it's all encrypted and they'll never know. But you do kind of always take that with a pinch of salt, really, don't you? You think like, well...
Yeah, some people hate it. Some people don't care.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
No.
But I can understand and fully respect some people want their full privacy on that. You don't want Apple making money out of your data or whatever that is. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Something I wouldn't use. I've got Nest Smart. I suppose if you're spending this amount of money on a HomePod, you've probably got a Nest smoke alarm anyway or something similar.
Yeah.
So you're going to be notified anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that comes all down to the ecosystems, doesn't it? It depends on what different brands you've got around your house, what sort of ecosystem you're creating. I think eventually, Matter would be different from this, but a lot of people will have made a decision either way on what sort of ecosystem they're basing things around.
Yeah, and I think obviously the Matter discussion is another discussion, but I think, that's pretty early days for Matter right now. Sonos are actually part of the Matter program. And I think where that really gets interesting is, say, for example, I know one of my friends has a Google doorbell. he's got a Sonos system. So if that Google doorbell was Matter, when you ring it, you can play a chime through the Sonos speakers. Even an Amazon Alexa speaker can play. So I think going forward, Matter's going to be a game changer. I think still early days yet for that. But maybe that's where Apple have something in the HomePod too. I know it's Thread radio, but maybe there's something else in there that they see it being an integral part of your smart home.
Talking about audio, then we've done a lot of testing this week. We've tested them as individual speakers and as a stereo pair. We have done some comparisons of the Apple stereo pair with something like the Sonos Beam for TV, which I think is another discussion. But if we just kick it off as a speaker versus speaker, one versus one, we had a lot of thoughts on that, didn't we?
Yeah, like you said, we've listened to a lot of music with them, like you said, set up as stereo pairs, just individually. And I think initially the first thing that we noticed right away was the low end performance, the bass in comparison. HomePod 2 was so much more impressive in that area versus the One Gen 2. I think we were all agreed on that.
Yeah, I mean, it does a great job of low end. There's no doubt about that. I think the two tweeters removed from the original one. I think
because it's 7 down to 5.
Yeah, I think that hasn't really affected it much. I think from the original side, I think obviously they've beefed up the processor, so they probably use some processing power to tweak that audio. But yeah, I think we all agreed bass, yes. The more we listened to it, the more we were actually swaying back to the Sonos.
Yeah, it was quite a strange one. I think the way you put it, so we set them up, and you walk in. We set them up in the showroom, and you walked in, and initially it was like, wow, like that's really impressive. We had the two of them set up at the same time, didn't we? But then the more you listen to it, it just seemed like the vocals, like, and the higher end, it just wasn't, the clarity just wasn't there in comparison to the One Gen 2. We listened to a lot, me and Em did, of like 1975, like I'm a massive fan of them. Some tracks which are very complicated, lots of strings, lots of vocals, lots of acoustics going on. And like through the One Gen 2, you could hear the like the intake of breath before like lyrics and stuff. It was like those details which you just couldn't quite pick up on the HomePod. And so the more you listened to the both of them, the more I know I found myself going back to wanting to listen to more on the ones, because it just that overall clarity, and it was just a little bit better on that.
And I think it's a bit controversial, but for me it was almost, the Apple was a bit original Beats audio, kind of very bass heavy. Wow, look at this. But the more you listen to it, the more you're like, actually this is not, I'm being drawn more into the Sonos One. It's more musical, there's a bit more detail, a bit more how the artist would
intend you to
listen to it.
It was like, with especially on the, obviously, given the context of the size of these speakers, what they're designed for and their price point, it's nothing in comparison to spending thousands of pounds. But yeah, I think one thing that I did find really impressive was with the HomePod, was the ability for it to automatically adapt to like new situation that you placed it. So rather than it being like in the corner, moving it up against the wall, putting it into like the middle of the room, it adapted really quickly. And it wasn't a case of like with the Sonos where you've got a true play again if you do that. This adapts constantly to the environment. I did read online as well. Apparently, I think they tested Apple over like 10,000 songs in 1,000 different locations, like moving it very slightly. To work out what needed to be updated and how to give you the best listening performance wherever it's placed.
I wish they'd let you toggle that on and off though.
Yeah.
I know when you do the Sonos True Play, you can toggle it off and you're like, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I just wish Apple would have done that. And I think moving on from that, there's no EQ adjustments in the HomePod. I think you can reduce the bass obviously in the settings, but that's it. And it's interesting they've actually put that reduce bass in the settings option.
Almost they've gone bass heavy on it.
Yeah, which I think creates wow immediately.
I think out of the box, if you're looking for which of these speakers is more impressive out of the box, it's HomePod hands down. There's just no question about it. But it is an extra £100. I think we had a conversation earlier around, is it worth, just on sound quality, would you pay £100 more for the HomePod?
I think if you look at it like in time, as soon as you listen to it, first 5 minutes, you're like, yes. And as we listened more and more, we were like, actually, yes, it's more impressive sonically with the bass, but the mid-range, the height was better on the Sonos One.
I think it depends on the use cases and the type of audio you're listening to. I think if you listen to bass-heavy tracks all the time, you're looking for a speaker you can really pump up and fill a large space or be used for parties. HomePod's still going to be the best one for you. If you're looking for a speaker that's going to offer you a bit of that, but also really bring out the life and the realism of your tracks, then I think Sonos is probably the better option for you on that one.
I think with spatial audio, again, I think we tested some tracks were really nice.
Yeah.
Other tracks missed again.
Yeah, a little bit hit or miss, wasn't it?
Yeah, which I think is, we found that in a lot of tests in all of our products, soundbars, everything. So obviously the Sonos ones haven't got spatial audio on those, but that is a plus for the HomePod. You know, but again, you need that Apple Music subscription. Yeah,
I think what was it you said earlier about the bass as well? It kind of it like 50%. It was quite happy, wasn't it? But when you started pushing it on the HomePod,
I think music and movers. When we raised the volume, I think it was clipping at a certain level, and then the mids and the mids started to get really harsh.
Yeah,
so I think at 50%, brilliant. And I think there's quite a few videos actually online of people testing it and they've measured the frequency response, and it does clip at a higher level. So I think medium to low level, which to be fair is most people's listening level, it sounds like, but as you up the volume, it doesn't work so well. And that went on to our sort of TV case. So I know we tested it with TV, which is again is a completely different subject.
Well, I think you've only got the option with HomePod for TV, haven't you? Which is again why I think we'll save this for another day when we maybe compare it with the Sonos Beam if that's what people are wanting. But I think that if you are looking for a stereo pair that can also double up as just TV speakers, obviously you can only do that with HomePod. So that is a really big plus for those speakers. But you're paying an extra 200 quid there, aren't you?
Yeah, and you need the Apple TV, which works nice with a new feature, this new software update where you can, come back in off your HDMI ARC and it will bring all your TV audio. Yeah. So your video games, whatever's plugged into your TV, you can make use of it through your HomePod. So again, that's another plus for Apple with that. And it's a nice feature of being in the ecosystem. So if you already have an Apple TV, you might be thinking, okay, I can buy 2 of these. I don't like the look of a soundbar, et cetera, But, I suppose that then flips it as well. Do we think Apple could, bring out a soundbar?
I mean, I think that's something we've not talked about yet, is that if you're going down the route of Sonos, you've got the option of home theatre, 5.1, connecting to your turntable, your soundbars, your ceiling speakers, your amps. You've got a lot more audio products in the Sonos sphere, whereas Apple is HomePod 2 and HomePod Mini. Do we see that being a possibility for Apple?
I mean, they've got Apple TV Plus, so they've got that. So
it seems like it's kind of coming together.
Well, it's like a bit of a no-brainer for Apple. Surely that's just easy money for them now. Bring out a soundbar.
They could do it wireless connectivity with the Apple TV or HDMI out directly from your TV, and I suppose they could build Apple TV streaming service into that soundbar.
Yeah.
So it could be another way to try and sell the Apple TV Plus subscription into your home. For me, it seems like it is something they would do, especially with the TV streaming service.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll wait and see how HomePod 2 goes down.
Yeah, maybe.
Leave it a few months and see what the sales are like in comparison.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon it's going to fly, or do you reckon it's going to flop?
There'll be millions of sales right now because, like we said earlier, anyone who's Apple and invested will just buy it because it's Apple. I think
how many returns?
Yeah, I think the real test will be like what comes in the next, like, throughout the summer, autumn, like towards the end of the year.
I think in 3-4 weeks' time, we'll have a look at the Apple refurbished site to see how many. I think that would be a good thing. So I remember when it first came out, I did actually look, and there was a lot on there. It was always it was basically like it was an in-stock item. So
I think the one thing they've got on their side this time is how many HomePod Mini users there now, and I think they might be the sort of people who are ready to get a step up in audio and are happy with the performance of HomePod Mini. The connectivity, Siri, the Apple ecosystem by now.
And I think if you look at the smart speaker landscape, obviously there's a lot of rumor that obviously the Sonos One is in reality 10 years old. So there's a lot of rumors that Sonos will be bringing out new speakers, who knows when, but that would be really interesting to see if they bring something out to obviously pick up that fight again to the Apple HomePod.
Yeah.
Well, what do we think? Which one's coming out on top for you guys?
I'll go HomePod for 10 minutes. Then after listening properly for a little while, I'll go for the One Gen 2. I think for me, the bass is impressive for its size and its form factor, but I mean, after listening for a little while, I just prefer that vocal clarity. I prefer the sort of separation from the One in comparison to the HomePod. I think music listening wise, I think the One Gen 2 is still the better audio listening speaker.
Yeah, I think for me it's the One Gen 2 because it covers all bases. I've got my Apple Music subscription into the Sonos system. I can use whatever voice service I want. I've got a soundbar. So for example, in my kitchen, I can be playing some TV audio and then I can link it to my Sonos One. It just gives me so much flexibility. Link it to a Sonos Move or Roam, take it in the garden. So I think there's just so much versatility, which now I'm used to. I don't want to come out of. I think that's the big question. If you're fresh into it and you're looking at it, you might be thinking, well, I'm an Apple Music subscriber. Maybe I go to the HomePod. But if I was that, I would listen to them. I think if you go and listen to them, but don't listen to them for 5 to 10 minutes. Don't just listen to, a 30-second, 60-second clip in each store. Try and get your own music onto it.
Yeah.
If you're just an individual looking to play your own music to a speaker, the HomePod 2 is probably fine. I think when you've got a family or a household full of people who are playing different things, Sonos gives you more flexibility with that. You know, if you've got an Apple Music account, you could actually have 4 different things playing from that same account across different zones in your home with Sonos, whereas Apple, one thing at a time.
It's one device per speaker in reality.
Yeah.
Yes, you can group multiple AirPlay devices, but it's one thing. And I think maybe it sounds like we're a bit hard on the HomePod. I think it is £100 more. Yeah, and a lot of people are hard on Sonos for the price it comes in at. So
HomePod's not cheap. That's not a cheap speaker, and I think you've got to be hard on a speaker that's come back just trying to prove a point essentially, and we've got to really ask, has it proved that point?
And I think for us it hasn't.
No,
and it's not as though we don't want it to, because like I said, we've got every piece of Apple hardware there is. But I think it's a tough one. It'd be really interesting to see how it maps out over the next couple of years with Apple.
Okay, so obviously our first ever episode of Let's Chat right here on our brand new channel. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed being part of it. I know I have, and hopefully you guys watching have also enjoyed this one. Don't be too harsh on us, episode 1. Getting used to all this new kit and this kind of setup. So please let us know down in the comments like what you've enjoyed, and any tips to improve our setup would be greatly appreciated.
And anything else you want us to cover in future episodes, we're hoping to do this more often as new products get released. We're entering new product season now. We've got some hopefully very exciting things coming up in the next couple of months. You've got big brands will be coming out with big products now, so hopefully we'll have more conversation like this soon.
Yeah. And if anyone's also got any other products, because it's not just going to be audio, it's going to be tech in general. So we're interested to talk about anything and everything, home, lifestyle, tech, whatever it might be, then let us know.